Oh my goodness. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is when you're listening to this episode of Heidi's Lane. I'm going to start by apologizing for the nasaliness. Number one, I am getting over a little cold, if you will. Nothing terrible. Headache, congestion, all of the things, a little bit of chest, but it came and went very quickly there. And then also, this has just been an emotional handful of, I would say days, but weeks, months, the last year has been emotional. And I happen to be recording this at an emotional moment. So I'm going to do my best to keep my emotions in check. Although you know me, I fully believe in expressing them all, but I want to get the message across today in the best possible way. So this is an impromptu podcast. I actually originally for today had scheduled to post an interview that is really great. I'm actually pushing it to next week. And then I'm going to be honest with you, next week's podcast was going to be a introduction to the reality that I needed to take a pause for the summer because I'm having a hard time managing it all. If I'm sorry. If I'm being honest. Gosh. And listen, I am good. And also, I am such a perfectionist by nature. I'm such an all or nothing person. And me trying to manage, quote unquote, meet in the middle is very difficult because what that means is there's a lot of messy and there's a lot of imperfect. There's a lot of things that don't go as planned, you know, and if we talk about historically speaking, I had a lot of help from employees to nannies to house help. And it allowed me to be super efficient. It allowed me to create so much. I could show up everywhere I needed to for my business or for you guys because I had so much support. And you guys have been following me along this journey for a while now. And you know that the last year and a half has been a drastic shift from where my life was prior, where, you know, for 15 years, I burned the candle at both ends and worked 24/7. And I am so grateful for the kids that I have and for the relationship that somehow miraculously I was able to maintain with them. But then being inside of this last year and a half where I've gotten rid of most of my help to cut costs, and I have gotten rid of the idea of help with my kids because not because of cost, but because I want to be there for my kids. I want to be primarily a mom. It has meant that the things that were so deeply ingrained around and with my identity are not as easy to fulfill. And it's super bittersweet. Bitter. Because while I know who I am now more than ever, and I know where I belong with my family and my home, I know who I am in my family. I've always known who I am in the world. And this last year and a half has felt like a struggle. And that's the bitter side. The sweet side is I have developed the deepest relationships with my kids that I've ever had. I've driven them everywhere. I've been the one yelling at them to do their chores, making them do their chores, having funny conversations in the car about nothing. And also sweet is I've been able to give myself time, date myself, which you guys know started a year and a half ago. And I've been able to find a relationship, which that's another topic for another day. It definitely started at a time when I probably wasn't ready. And it's been messy, but this messy middle has been full of therapy and coaching and some of the most beautiful, revealing conversations with myself and with God. And it's actually been awesome. And still, there's a big struggle to not feel like I can be everything for you guys. To not feel like I just don't even have the bandwidth. I don't have the minutes and the days to get done the things that I need to and still show up as a good parent, as a good my self-care. It goes by the wayside so fast, or as a good partner in my relationship. And so, sorry for the emotions. Actually, I'm not sorry. And I kind of am, because that's how I'm wired. Oh, interruption. I'm doing a podcast, bud. I have kids outside my door right now. And I'm trying not to take time away from them. But, when you bring in summer break, it makes it even more challenging because they're here all day. And I'm still trying to figure out how on weeks when I have my kids, which, to be honest, has been most weeks of this summer because of just how vacations have fallen and birthdays. And I do not like working around my kids. I do not like it. I feel like, my kids have dealt with so much of me working for so many years, and I feel like they deserve all of me. And I'm going to say too, I think I deserve to be there all for them. Like, I deserve that for me too. I deserve to be with all of them. And, this, sorry I'm tangenting, but knowing that my son is leaving on a mission for the church. He leaves August, and he got his mission call 3 months ago. It feels like yesterday. And 3 months ago, I was like, oh, we have 5 months. We have a ton of time. And still, I knew it was going to come fast, and I didn't know it was going to come this fast. We have 2 months until he leaves, and I am barely, for all those out there who have Mormon missionaries, how in-depth the missionary portal is. And it's not the missionary that does it. It's the mom. Like, yes, Maddox submitted his mission papers that he stamped and approved that I helped him do all of. And, the mission portal, getting him ready to go, whether it's medical documents and, different training videos and things like that, and making sure he understands all of the guidelines. I haven't even started shopping. Like, we are barely trekking along with that process. And every day, I'm trying to balance making the most of the final months and days of having all 4 of my kids in my home the way that I know it. It will never be the same again. Like, these are the last couple months I will ever have on this planet as a mother with 4 kids living under my roof, right? I'm sure they're going to come back home. I hear that all the time. That's a different dynamic. They're adult children by that point. Yes, technically Maddox is an adult, but he's still a kid. He still lives with mom and dad, right? He has not yet left. And so that's a huge emotional pull for me. And knowing, though, I also have the responsibility to provide for my family. And so it's been tricky to figure out in what ways can I provide that utilize my time the best way possible, but don't take away time from what I know I'm never going to get back. And that's time with my kids. It's been tricky. And as much as I love this podcast, because I really do, I have realized that, number one, it costs me a lot of money to have it go. It just does. I'm not getting rid of it. Do not worry. I am not getting rid of this podcast, but it does cost me a lot of money. And when I'm in a situation where my income is limited because my time to work is limited, that I will allow to work, sometimes it's like, okay, where am I getting where can I get a return? And how, and sometimes the return is an emotional return, knowing that it impacted the lives of you guys, but how can I cut costs? How can I make this work? And, with my all or none mentality, which is something I tell myself all the time, I'm all or none. I'm either all in or I'm all out. Like the second I step a little bit in, I end up absorbing myself so much in it. And this is true. Usually in a business, when I step even a little bit in, I am so far in and so deep. I've made whatever it was that was supposed to be small, I've made it huge. And it's just like, I cannot stop myself. Like I, by nature, am an addict. And sometimes my addiction comes in the form of work or growing something or fill in the blank. It was an eating disorder was my addiction of the past, right? And work has become an addiction, and helping people has become an addiction, and creating things that I know people love has become an addiction. And so it's like this last year and a half has been beautiful and equally as painful, because it's been like not just quitting my addiction cold turkey, right? Like it's not just drugs where I can go away from it. It's kind of like food, right? You can't quit food. You have to see it every single day. Same with work. I need to work. I need to provide for my family. I need the emotional fulfillment of helping people, but how can I do it in a way where it doesn't consume so much of me and it does not become my God? And that's really important. How can I make sure my work does not become my God? And it reminds me of what my friend had said a year ago. It's very similar to, he had asked me, Heidi, are you building the kingdom of God with your work? Or are you building the kingdom of Heidi? And back then, because I had so much more going on, I think I was much more thoughtful and like, oh my gosh, Kay, it's really hard in this space, especially the public image space, right? To not unintentionally start building the kingdom of Heidi. Yes, we're helping people, so it's easy to couch it and say, oh, we're building the kingdom of God, right? We're helping God. We're doing God's work, because we are. And also, it's so easily for people like anyone with a brand, it so easily can become this thing where we are making it about us, right? Now, I think I'm in a slightly different place now. Like that recognition is what helped me begin to shift my priorities and change the way that my life was and reduce the amount of business I was doing and make sure I was spending more time with the kids. Because I know for me, what God wants is for me to be a great mom. I do know that. I really do know that. I don't know what God wants for me in the world right now. I don't know this. And sometimes I can't figure out if there's me keeping my brand and my work in the public eye. I can't tell if that's a thing God wants for me right now or he does not. And because of how it seems to pull me away from my family. But I love it. I love being here with you guys. And so this is what's landed me at this messy middle. Okay, so back to what I was saying. Initially, that all or nothing thought had me thinking, okay, I just have to quit the podcast. I have to quit the podcast, at least for the summer. I'm going to do an episode on July 1st. Let everyone know, hey, my life is shifting. And it is. It's ever shifting. You guys are along for this ride with me. Maddox is leaving. I want my last minutes with my kids to be with them. And, I got advice from people who love me as a friend who said, that's the best thing I've ever heard. That's what you need. Your kids need you. And then I got advice from anyone who has any knowledge of this space. And they said, that's the worst thing you can do. You've spent time and momentum and money building up a podcast and listeners. And for you to leave them is ridiculous. And so I've kind of been in this mental torment for a while. Like, what do I do? Do I stay? Do I go? Do I this? Do I that? I've been stuck inside of, is it all or is it nothing? Which is very Heidi Lane of me. My whole life, I either win or I lose. And if I cannot win, if I don't know I'm not going to win, if I don't know I'm going to win for certainty, then I'm not even, and I think there's a chance I could lose, I'm not even going to try. Like, that's been me for most of my life, whether I was trying out for cheer or a dance squad or 8th grade president. I only ever tried things that I knew I could win, because the thought of being in that messy middle, the thought of attempting something and not having it be a success is devastatingly freaky to me, scary, terrifying. Because, and I say to myself, okay, what would it mean about me if I failed? What would it mean about me if people saw my messy middle? What would it mean about me if I tried for something and it didn't work? And I think what it would mean about me, at least that child version of me, is that I'm not enough. And I am not a person worthy of someone being proud of. And then that whole thing can tangent into, well, why am I looking to someone else to be proud of me? And how can I figure out how to be proud of me? And truth be told, I would make myself the most proud if I was the best mom I could be, and everything else came second. That would make me the most proud. The most guilt I have is when a day ends. I'll even take this day, for example. I'm halfway through the day and I got so sidetracked, so triggered, so hijacked by an unexpected work thing that just created a cascade of emotion and freakouts for other business things that I needed to take care of. And you know what was supposed to be a day where I woke up, went and got coffee and came back and made the kids breakfast, ended up me being gone in the car for 3 hours, sitting really in my driveway, getting stuff done, coming in, rushing to make breakfast and remembering, oh my gosh, I got to record this podcast. And there's guilt. There's guilt there because my kids are home. And I mean, I the same thing will go, I'll have a weekend or a Friday where I have work and Ruby has a swim party and I'm working while the swim party is happening and the swim party ends before I know it. And then I'm sitting there going, what the heck? How did I let those hours pass without really... And Ruby, I was sitting by the pool the entire time, but I wasn't really present with Ruby and her friends. I wasn't really present. That guilt, yes, it does kick me into gear the next day to be a better mom. And I think that's kind of how it works for me. It's like a roller coaster. One day I am acting in humanness, right? Like getting all the things done, maybe being a little reactive. And it pulls me away from where presence is needed with my kids, my family, myself. And that recognition the next day has me acting insanely present and more stable with my priorities and perspective than I had previously. But it's up and down, up and down, up and down. And maybe this is life. I actually do think this is life. So for this podcast, what I've decided is that because the all or nothing has run my life and cost me, because there's, with everything, let me just say this, and I want you to hear me when I say this. Every single thing in our lives, every choice we make, there's a payoff and there's a cost. Whether we are acting as a victim, there's a payoff and there's a cost to being a victim. Maybe we're, trying to be the hero in a situation. There's a payoff and there's a cost. In this situation, my all or nothing, there's a payoff for it being, for me saying I'm all or nothing and jumping into that identity. And then there's a cost. The payoff in me making everything I did so big or not doing it at all. The payoff is that I've been relatively successful. I have. I've made success for myself. The things that I do, I tend to do well. And so it looks good. From the outside, it looks good to me. Now, what's the cost? The cost of living a life where I am all or nothing, or you, because I think you might relate to some of this too. If you are living a life that is also all or nothing, if that is your philosophy as well, here's what your cost is. Your cost is learning the lessons that are meant to be learned in the journey of the messy middle, right? It's also, if you're an all or nothing person, there's opportunity loss, because think of all the times, I'm speaking for myself, I can think of all the times that I did not try for something. I did not try out for something. I did not do something because I did not know if I could win. I did not know if I could be successful. And as a result, I didn't even try at all. And all of the lessons, all of the value, all of the fruit of doing something is in the doing, not the achieving or the accomplishing at the end. Like you've heard this, the motto or saying, it's not about where you want to go, right? It's not about getting to the end result. It's about who you become along the way. And by being an all or nothing person that's choosy and saying, can I win at this? Will I be able to make this as big as I want to make this? Can I go all in? What I'm doing is I'm holding myself back from learning the lessons and becoming the person that I could be by understanding and trying on the idea of true balance. So here's what I'm going to do with the podcast. After much thinking, I already have an episode planned for next week. The one that was going to go this week is going to go next week. It's going to be really great. And by the way, I should have you all know that by the time so right now it's Friday. It's Friday. By Monday, which is when this will post, I'm recording this very close to my post date. I'm going to be on a cruise ship with my family. I'm going to be on a cruise ship in the Bahamas. I'm so excited. Yes, we'll have Wi-Fi because ships do now. And no, I want to act like I don't have it because I want to be present with my kids. I want to be present with my kids and their friends that are coming and my guy and his daughter. I want to be present with everybody. I don't want to think about what work needs to be done or what, and sometimes work doesn't even need to be done, but I don't want to think about the work that I think needs to be done. Then I come home for a couple days to unpack, repack, and I leave to Minnesota. So we're doing a really awesome family trip. Very excited about that. I'll be gone for another week. Again, us trying to spend as much family time as possible. And looking at this lineup, it's like, how am I going to be able to do podcasts, show up for my people, and also, most importantly, show up for me and my kids? Gut instinct says I can't do it. I'll be back in September. But the messy meat in the middle that is beginning to emerge in my life, and I'm trying to allow, and truth be told, I've been doing for a full year and a half. Me quitting a lot of what I was doing, not having as much help as I have, and trying to do what I can when I can with what I have has been an example of me actually being able to live in the messy middle. So the idea that I'm all or nothing is a lie that I've told myself for far too many years. And so now I'm going to take that meat in the middle, that anti-perfectionism, like get rid of the idea that what I need to do is perfect. And I'm going to say, starting next week, this podcast is going to continue, and it's going to continue every other week. Maybe when Maddox leaves in September, I'll start to do it weekly again. But for now, it's going to be every other week. And let me just say this. Sometimes when I release the pressure from myself to do something, it makes doing it actually easier. So if you show up and you get a notification that an episode has been released on an off week, it means that there was motivation, there was inspiration, and the release, my own pressure that I put on myself to be, what I think people need me to be. Once that's gone, I have a feeling it'll make it easier for me to show up. And let me say also, the idea of carrying on and doing hour-long episodes during this time in my life that I have to think through and whatever, it's just too much for me. It's too much, if I'm being real. You're not too much. what I placed on me was too much. But the idea of showing up and doing 5 to 10 minute lessons at least every other week, or 5 to 10 minute thoughts every other week, maybe more, actually lights me up. For me to be able to hold on to this microphone and say, here's what's going on in my life. Here's what I learned from this. And here's what I want you guys to know, because I feel like this can help you. That excites me. You know, I was talking to, I don't know if you guys have heard of human design, but human design is this really cool thing where you put in your date of birth and where you were born, and you can create, it's like your blueprint to your soul. And I actually am going to do a live reading with a girl who does human design. She's really awesome. Trust me, I have a lot of really great episodes planned, but the time to execute's been very difficult. But for human design, she's going to do my reading live. Now, I did get a little snippet of my human design before the live reading you guys are going to hear. I am a generator. Okay, I do know that. I'm a generator is what they call it. And a generator is someone who is creative. And when they're in flow, they are in flow. Like we are people who make big things happen, and we do. But there's a caveat to that. For a generator to be in flow and for their creativity to work, they have to actually be lit up, on fire by what it is they're doing. And this has been super hard for me to find over the past year and a half. I don't know if it's death that really just kind of threw me into a little bit of a traumatic spin. I don't know if it's the extra therapy and the connection with self and God that's had me slowing down and maybe being a little more contemplative. But it's been very hard for me to find something I'm super excited about. This podcast happens to be one of those things I'm super excited about, especially in a way that allows me to be my best for me and my kids. So every other week, possibly every week, but we're going to commit to every other week. I'm going to show up. I'm going to maintain my integrity. Me taking a break for 2 months is probably a break in my integrity. Not doing what I said I was going to do when I say I'm going to do it. So now I'm saying I commit to every other week starting next week. And I will be back. I will not be doing video unless, I have a camera with me, but I'm going to be traveling so much I can travel with my recorder, no problem. No camera, just me showing up. And who knows, maybe this new format that is, most helpful to me also is easier for you. It's something that you can actually listen to. It's something that doesn't take up too much of your time. The thing I want to leave you guys with today, let me just say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing me. The thing I do want to leave you guys with today is it's an invitation to join the anti-perfectionist movement that I feel like I'm starting within myself. It's an invitation to let go of the idea that everything you need to do needs to be perfect, needs to be needs to be a win, and allowing yourself to do what you're able to do. For example, with working out, some minutes of working out is better than none minutes. Yet, if we can't do the workout that we planned, we are so hard on ourselves, so we don't do it at all. Right? But what if we could let go of the plan? We could let go of the idea in our heads of how much we need to do to be enough. And we could just do what we're able to do in this season of life. What if we could just take one baby step forward, no matter how our old self in our old season where we had more help, totally different circumstances, no matter what that old self would have thought. Because the old Heidi would have looked at the Heidi now and been like, oh man, you're not getting much done in a day, are you? But man, I don't stop. I do not stop. It's just the shift is so different. So I'm going to invite you to love your process, to love where you're at, to give yourself grace and celebrate the sum that you can do instead of the none that we normally would do because we can't do the all. The second invitation I want to extend to you is to do what works best for you, regardless of what anyone thinks. I'm in the middle of that right now. I have opinions all over the place. And I had the recognition that the more opinions I get, which they're valuable, but the more opinions I get, the harder it is for me to make a decision and feel confident in my decision. Because there's always the second guessing, the what ifs. Oh my gosh, were they right? Right? And so I'm kind of at a space now, what I'm doing it irregardless of what anyone else says. And is it the right decision? Yeah. And it's the right decision because it's the decision that I'm making. And that used to be a big way of my being in the workplace. And I feel like I need to take that back. That whatever step I take is the right step because it's the step I'm taking. And I'm going to make it the right step. So I'm going to find evidence to back up that me doing these every other week podcasts, or maybe every week, but 5 to 10 minutes is the right step. Guys, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you, how much I love you. And I am just grateful to have you along this journey with me. I don't know how the next few months of podcasts are going to help you, but what I do know is they will. I know that you're going to hear something in these podcasts that resonates with you, that has you going, oh my gosh, Kate, I'm going through that in my life too. Something Heidi said, hopefully, is what I could utilize in my life. I'm also going to leave by saying you are enough. You are doing enough. You are heard. You are seen. Oh my gosh. Like the life of a woman, the life of a mom, the life of a human. It's messy, and messy is beautiful. I love you, and I'll see you next week.